Hello everyone, in this lesson I will briefly talk about the topics we will cover during the course. In the first part one will talk about Cisco certifications and the installation and use of the ENCOR network simulator program. In the second part, I will talk about Layer 2 and Layer 3 forwarding, and finally we will complete this section by talking about Cisco Express forwarding. In the third part, we will discuss Advanced Spanning Tree Protocol, Multiple Spanning Tree Protocol. In the fourth part, we will cover VLAN trunking protocol and Ether channel, and in the fifth part, we will cover IP routing, static routing, virtual routing forwarding. In the sixth part, we will deal with the topic of EIGRP. In the seventh part, we will deal with topics such as the basics of OSPF, OSPF-DR and BDR placement, OSPF network types. In the eighth part, we will cover topics such as OSPF multi-area, OSPF summarization, OSPF route filtering, and in the ninth part, we will cover OSPF version 3 topics, OSPF version 3 basics, route summarization in OSPF version 3, IP version for support in OSPF version 3. In the 10th part, I will talk about the basics of BGP, BGP route summarization and WiDi protocol BGP, and in the 11th part, we will talk about a little more advanced topics of BGP and make BGP route filtering examples. In the 12th part, I will talk about the basics of multicast addresses, Internet Group Management Protocol and protocol-independent multicast protocols. In our 13th chapter, I will talk about quality of service, why we need quality of service, and we will talk about the models of quality of service, classification and marking, policing and shaping and queuing. In chapter 14, we will cover topics such as network time protocol, first hop redundancy protocol, network address translation. In our 15th chapter, I will talk about GRE, IPsec, site-to-site VPN, Cisco location ID separation protocol and VXLANs. In chapter 16, I will talk about wireless network basics. In chapter 17, I will talk about wireless network architecture. In chapter 18, I will talk about wireless security. In chapter 19, we will talk about enterprise network architecture, SD access, SD-WAN, etc. In the 20th chapter, I will talk about troubleshooting, monitoring and analysis, ping, traceroute, debugging, SNMP, syslog, NetFlow, switch port analyzer and IPSLA. In the 21st chapter, I will talk about network security. We will cover topics such as networks access control list, password protection, AAA, zone-based firewall, control plane policing, and in the last section, we will complete our training by talking about software-defined network.